All right, we're going to start at the beginning again. Whenever we go into EQ8, you always come up to this screen. So I thought it's always a good starting point to know where we're going to. I'm going to design a quilt from scratch. And as we come into it, it gives us our basic one that it always gives us in horizontal as our choice at the top. I'm going to go ahead with the horizontal again because I would like to make a one quilt wonder. And I wanted to show you how to go into the libraries and find. If you're looking for a quilt to make and you don't have anything in your mind and you think, what can I do? Well, here's a way to do it. So under layouts first, I'm going to change my horizontal and vertical to 1 so I only have one square. And right now it's at 9 inches for the square. And that would be an awful small quilt. So we're going to change it to 48 by 48 so that the center is a big, giant open area. What am I going to fill that with? Well, under libraries, if we go into block library, as I've told you before, there are so many different choices under blocks. One of the choices happens to be whole top design. This can start you out with a center that is already designed, and you could make the center to whatever size you wanted to make it. Uh, most of these are for a square quilt. So when we come through, I don't enjoy having a square quilt. So we'll have to put some borders on this that will make it so that it's not square, it's more rectangular. So for right now, let me go ahead and select all of the blocks and add them to my sketchbook. Right now, my current sketchbook had nothing in it, so it only has the one block wonders or the whole quilt patterns. So when I'm choosing, I'm going to go to design because I think I'd like to see what the center is before I start putting my borders on. And I'm going to try a few different blocks as the centerpiece to see what it would look like. And as I go through, if I'm going to put borders on this, I don't know that I want it to be too fancy in the middle. So one of these that doesn't have a whole lot of mixture in it is probably good. Looking at this as well, one of these could be for a panel in the center that if you decided to that you wanted to use a panel, you could figure out what size the panel would be and you could customize this for that. As of right now, I have always wanted to do one of these giant dahlias. So I'm going to put that in the center. I think some fancy borders around the outside of that would be nice. So now I'm going to go back to borders and decide what I would like to do. As we said earlier, I'd like this to be a more rectangular quilt. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my left and my right border and only put a top and bottom in to give me more length top to bottom. So by clicking on left and right, clicking all off and clicking on left and right, I can then adjust my left and right to be 0. And then clicking on top and bottom, I can adjust those to be longer. And I'm feeling like a even number would be nice. So I'm going to put in 4 inches. Although if I put 4 inches in, I'm going to have to make several blocks to go across because 4 by 4, you gotta make a bunch of those. So let's take and divide out 48. 48, and give me a minute because I didn't think about this. If I made them 8 inches, then I would only have 6 blocks in the top and the bottom if I want to add blocks to that. So I think I'm going to go with 6. And then the style of the border, I'm going to use blocks. And since I just said it would be nice to have 6 square ones, I'm going to adjust the number of blocks in the top and the bottom to be 6. So, and they don't look square, do they? Well, let's try something different. Instead of using the blocks, we discovered last time we were looking at borders that using tile squares makes it so that they're even. Now let's see if we can get rid of the left and right tile squares. Nope, it's not letting me. All right. And that's kind of funny because right now there's 6 in the middle and 6 up and down. It should work. If I go back over to blocks and oh, so I have 8 there, 8 inches instead of 6 inches. Okay, that's what's up. All right, so if I changed it to 8 inches and they're just taught me that if I go to tiled blocks first, then I go back over to regular borders, it's going to portion it out for me. So there we go. Now I have 8 blocks that I can put things into on the top and on the bottom. I can either leave it like that, and it shows me now I have a 64-inch high by a 48-inch wide, or I could add other borders in there to make it a little bit more traditional. So I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and put another border in, and I'm going to make it a horizontal, and I'm going to add it in. And since the others are 8 inches, I'm going to make it a 4-inch, but I'm going to do it on all sides, not just one. That looks pretty good. All right. So why did it change this? Okay. So now I think I've got it portioned out the way I'd like it, but we have blocks to fill in here. So when I go into design, I can then bring in some more blocks through my block library. And stars. Let's do some stars. As you can see now, I've chosen a star that I thought might look nice. And I'm terribly symmetrical, so I end up putting most things symmetrically in the blocks. And again, I don't think I like that, so let's try it a different way. And I'm going to use my eyedropper again because I like this block. And I think I'm going to put it here, here, and not too bad. Okay, so I would then most likely add a color to the outside border, and this would be called finished for me. And I'm going to make it easy on myself and hold down the Control and Alt button and do all of them at the same time.
Could you put that border inside those blocks if you wanted to?
I sure could. So let's go back to borders and let's remove this border. And let's insert a border into there. And I'm going to make it 4 again. And then I can go to designs and again, hold down Control and Alt and fill it in like that if I like, or I might like to have this color be there instead. Anyway, that's the way you would go through that process. And um, and that's how you would set up this style of border. Now, I want to also show you that if you wanted to put blocks in here, I know we've discussed this before, but say I thought, oh, well, I'm going to put this block in here. If you only have one whole block there, it's going to stretch it out for you. And it's going to try and make it so that you can fit that block in that positioning. So I would try and make it a little bit more so that it has blocks in there too, so that you can come back and even that looks silly, but it gives you the idea of what you can do with the borders with blocks. All right, so along with borders, sometimes you want sashing. So let's go ahead and we're going to add this to our but it's telling me I have to save it. And let's go ahead and do a new quilt. Let's play with horizontal, but also let's put sashing in it. Now I put big sashing in there. I'm also going to take away this outer border. So just like the outer borders, you can also put um, blocks into your sashing. Control Alt, do them all. So remember, Control Alt does all of them. Alt does every other one. Control Alt does every one of them. Uh, when it comes to the other sashing, we were talking about this on earlier. Christine, what other thoughts did you have for that? Did you want to see if we could break up the sashing at the tops and sides of the block as well?
Yeah, maybe you could break that into 2 or 3 pieces and do individual blocks there like flying geese.
Hmm. It
With
doesn't give me any choices to do anything different.
I see that, yeah.
But if you knew what the size of it is,
Yeah,
here's
I
a
that
way,
was my default as I designed a block around what size I figured it out.
right?
Yeah.
So if I go to print and export and I click on this, it tells me, well, it's supposed to tell me the size. Um, Let me put something in it real quick. There we go. So there's another thing that I didn't know. You have to have something in it for it to actually tell you the size of it. So this is a 9x4, and we could break it up into 3-inch pieces if we wanted to. And then you'd have to make a block that had three. Ooh, isn't that weird? See what it did to me? Come on, come back. Uh-oh, I made it crash.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, and it didn't save anything. So it crashed. Okay.
Maybe you hadn't saved it yet. Do you have to save it along each step, or how does that work?
Yeah, normally, so years ago when I was first learning how to use computers and stuff, every time you did something different, they would say, Come up here and hit your save button so that you save everything." And what they're meaning is save project. And since I've gotten to the point with the new software, most of them does a save every so often, every few seconds. And then, but apparently this one, because I crashed it, it didn't save anything. So don't rely on this program to save it every few seconds. If you want to, you need to hit the save project every time you do something new. Every time you add something to your project sketchbook, if you feel uncomfortable that it's not gonna, but I don't crash. This thing doesn't crash very frequently. I think it's only crashed on me. This is the second time in years. So,
Hey, you haven't pushed it to the limits unless you can make it crash.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so um, where was I? We were talking about in design, and I need to add stuff from the libraries again. And we were talking about going to the block work table. Me say project. And see, it didn't crash that time. I must have gone through something that was weird. Um, so what you could do in order to go through and add something to the sashing portion is you can, again, we found out you have to do this in order to know what size it is here. It's a 9x4. So let's see if it crashes again. You go to block work table. Ah, look, that's where the crash is. Okay, so let's open it back up again. I did save before that.
What'd you do to make it crash?
So I put a block in sashing.
Mm-hmm.
I went to look at it as far as, here, I'll show you again. In the block work table, we have let's see if it's
Must be a bug though, because it shouldn't do that.
okay.
Yeah, because I just put one in the sashing and I haven't tried to do anything yet with it.
Okay, so what I did was this. I put one in the sashing. I went to print and export, clicked on it to see what size it is, and then I went to block work table.
Oh,
And it crashed at that. So I bet you if I go back to design
save
and
it.
then a block work table, see, it didn't crash that time.
Okay.
So there's something I should probably email them, letting them know that that's happening. So it's a 9x4 sashing. So if we make a block, an easy block that has, matter of fact, let's go to here and look at our blocks and just pick a block to fit in there. And then change this block from a 12x12 to a 9x4. And then select all of this. When you hit pick, select all. Then we can change this to be, oh, because I don't have edit on. Now I can bring this back to 3 inches because we have 9 inches to fit. Although 9 by 4 is not going to work to be even. So see, you have to do some planning ahead. If I did this at 4 inches though,
You could put something in the middle.
and then I copy this and I paste it, and then put some lines.
It didn't snap, did it?
No, it didn't. And we've got 9 inches, and these are supposed to be 4 inches each. So that makes 8, and there should be an inch in between, right? Oh, but also this is off. But okay, it's not snapping because I don't have the snaps on right either. If it's 9 and we want them to be, we want this to be 18 so that it's a half inch integrals, right? 18 and 18 is 36, right? Do a copy and paste again and see how it works. Okay, there it snapped. Okay, so now we've built a block that actually is going to fit in the sashing properly. And color it a little bit better. And then add it to our sketchbook. Now, when we go back to the quilt work table, it's going to be the last thing that's in there. And if we take and bring it in, see how it fits in there nicely now? You just basically have to figure that out because the sashing does not allow you to put individual blocks in there. So here's another little lesson. I put them all in the side ones and they're not in the correct direction. So I have to rotate those. And I held down my control button and I rotated them all at one time. That's the way you would do it, Christine, if you were needing to put some blocks in there. You have to figure out a way to actually design a block that fits into it.
That makes sense, and that was the solution I came up with. So
yeah,
I'm glad
there are some
I'm glad I wasn't the
limitations.
only one.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have any more questions about borders? We kind of went over borders last time. I can go ahead and show you again under design how you can add some borders in automatically if you wanted to. But we did discuss them the time before. Would you like a short revamp on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start a new quilt again. And let's do a horizontal. Right away, it starts me out with a border that's 1 inch. We're going to leave the layout the center since we're talking about borders. In the border options, you have the choices to add borders, delete the current border that's highlighted, or insert. When you add a border, it's going to add it to the outside. When you insert a border, it's going to insert it into the center. Like that. There's the added one, it's highlighted. And if we insert, there's the inserted one, it's highlighted. Once you have the borders to the size you want, by using these lock adjustments, you can change any border to whatever you'd like. If they're unchecked, you can change each individual border differently. And you can make them any size you want. If you have them checked, either the left or right one, and you change it, it's going to change both of them, the top and bottom one. It's going to change both of them. If you have them all checked, then it's going to change all of them at once. When you choose the different styles of borders at the top, it will change the border options in here. Right now, horizontal and vertical are not allowing you to do anything because when it comes to the horizontal and vertical blocks, the horizontal layout does not allow you to put blocks in. But if you click on blocks, you can see it comes back up and it allows you to change the number of blocks in your border itself. It does not consider the cornerstone part of the border when you're changing these block numbers. If you wanted to change the blocks to have them be even, there is a block style called tile squares. When you click on tile squares, it automatically changes the blocks to fit whatever your center blocks are, your center measurements are, and puts an even amount in there. So as you can see, it changed all of them to 12. It does not allow you to remove top and bottom or side to side, but once you have them changed, you can always go back over to the block over here, and then you can remove the left and right or the top and bottom. And then you've got the correct size for your center measurements. As far as the other designs, they're pretty well what they say they are. And you can choose any of those. And when you're in designs, if there's something you'd like to do with auto borders, you can also choose auto borders. And there are several different styles of auto borders. So that's a pretty basic overall of the borders.
So when you print, could you like that one? Could you print that one to be paper pieced?
Yes,
Okay.
there you go.
Ah,
And you can change the sizes of these and still print the paper piece ones. Okay, so we had gone over borders in the last one, so I just went ahead and did a quick overall. Since we've got a little bit more time, I thought it would be advantageous if we went through and showed how to do the row by row work table design. So I'm going to click on New Quilt and I'm going to choose horizontal strip. I kind of glanced over this when we did quilt work table, the lesson on quilt work table. And I thought it might be helpful if we went over this. And so just to give you an idea what row by row is, here are a whole bunch of different quilts that are all row by row. And sometimes it's nice to just design something like for a little boy's quilt that is from your EQ blocks. And let me go through that with you. So I'm going to go to libraries, block library. And down under foundation pieced, there are several different categories that could be used to do like a little boy quilt. They have transportation, toys, and I'm selecting all the blocks and I'm adding them to my block work table. Tools.
ugh.
And let's just say we want to do ABCs to put the little boy's name in it. Oh, nope, that's not right. The letters up here, alphabet. I like those. So I want to know, I mean, like what size would I want to make this? So under my layout, I think I'm going to make the first one a width of, I like mine 50 by 60. What did it do? Okay, so it's not letting me do anything but 20 wide. That's not going to work for me. So I'm going to go check and see if I can change that. And excuse me while I stumble doing this because I'm not for sure exactly where that is located. Okay, so see under strip quilts, the width of the strip, the highest it can be is 20, 50, but it's set for 20. So I'm going to change it to 50. And it also had the maximum number of strips you could do. So now it should let me put 50 in there. And I don't want the top one to be 30 inches. So I'm going to change it to be 10. And that is looking weird.
But it says 10 by 90.
Yeah. So let's change these backwards here. Isn't that weird? So the width is really the length and the length is really the width.
Huh.
Okay. So right now I've defined the width to be 50 inches. Right down here, it's telling me it's a 52 by 52 because there's still a 1-inch border around the outside. But I also want there to be blocks in here. Because I don't have pieced blocks chosen, you can change each one of these to have a different style. So now it's giving me the choice of how many blocks I want to put in. And it's a 50 by 10. So I'm going to make it 5 blocks so I have the even number of blocks in there. And hence you would change each one of these. So if I want it to be each one of these to have blocks, and I can change, let's just say, to 5 inches, and it's 50. So I want the length is still going to be 50. I want 10 blocks in there. So now I have 10 5 by 5 blocks in there. And hence you do that with each one of the rows. You change them to be whatever size you want them to be. And then when we go to design, we can take and put in, like if I said I wanted, this is 2 inches. And I'm going to make it piece block. And there we go. And when I go to design, I can then use my block tool and start adding things that I want to put in there. So there's the explanation of what a strip quilt and how to use it. Any questions?
That looks like a lot of work.
Yeah. But if you're making something and you want to, I mean, you could put in regular blocks in here as well instead of the little pieced stuff. Uh, you know. Okay. So I've kind of gone over borders and I've kind of gone over strip quilts. Is there anything else that we want to go over today? I know it's a short day, but I actually had covered borders in the last.
So, so what about the vertical one? Is that opposite too?
I don't know. Let's try that. Let me add this. Let's go to new quilt, vertical quilt, layout. Apparently so. No, here's the length
Yeah,
and here's the width. So why did it do that for horizontal?
that's weird. Well, and why can't you add strips to it? Or can you?
Yeah, see, it's still doing
There it
length
is. There it
and
is.
width.
Yeah.
Okay, so vertical strips, I would think, I mean, I guess you could put blocks in it too. But I would think with vertical, you would want to use
What are half drop blocks? Oh, I see.
something like this, which is that was interesting. That's called checkerboard.
What does the checkerboard do if you add more? No, that doesn't, never mind.
I think checkerboard, when you go to design and you put a block in it, you probably have to. Let's go back to layout, the checkerboard layout. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Checkerboard. Watch this.
And then take the lines off and see what it looks like. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That looks southwestern.
Yeah.
Yes. And
And
very
if,
modern.
let's go over one more thing. I want to tell you about things in libraries. So we actually designed a block to go into our sashing. This one. If I liked that block and I wanted to keep it for future reference, I can actually add that to the libraries. So when I go into libraries, I go into block library and I click on current sketchbook. I find that block, which I just went by. I highlight it. See this little my favorite blocks? When you can copy this with this little copy down at the bottom left. You can go to my favorite blocks. You can take and add a library, create library. then it actually adds a library sashing block creation, what I just did. And under it gives you open styles that you can change the names of. And this is kind of ridiculous, but I had it out there, so I just thought I'd show it to you. And then you can actually paste that block into there and hit Save Libraries. And for the future, whenever you want to use that block, under Block Library, under My Favorite Blocks, it's there. So I thought that would be helpful. Not only can you do that with blocks, you can do that with fabrics. It has My Favorite Fabrics or layouts. Any of these, you can create what you want and you can save it. If you've got a bunch of photos you're going to use, you can put it into My Photos. So any of those, it gives you a place to save that stuff. And then you can use it not only in this project, but in any future projects you want to use it in. It'll already be there.
So Lynn, if you have something in your favorites and you decide it's not your favorite anymore, can you just move it to something that's not your favorites, but it's something else? Like your library?
If you don't want it anymore,
you don't want it in favorites, but you don't want to delete it just in case you might want to use it sometime.
You could rename like your style 10.
Just in case.
But it's still under your favorites, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only place you can save your different blocks in your favorites.
Thank
So
you.
if you wanted to take and move it from, you could take and cut it from here and put it into your old favorites. But every time you do it, you have to hit save. So see, now it's no longer in there. It's in your old favorites. And you can make as many of these categories under here as you want. So it gives you lots of capabilities to make more. I used this most of the time for my fabric because I started trying to keep up with all the fabric I had. If I was really, really good, I'd go to my room and I'd take a picture of all my fabrics and then I'd put them in categories in my fabric favorite library. And as I use the fabric and it's gone, I should delete it off. So then you would have a current library of your own fabric. And the other thing you can do is you could take and click on that and, oh, I thought there was a place for you to be able to put notes.
Note card over to the right.
Okay, note card. Then you could actually put how much of the fabric you have in this note card. And that, if you did that, I would give yourself an award because that's really, really good. Yeah.
Lynn, even
Yeah.
I'm not that organized.
I'm not either. I try to be, but then I get to a certain point and go, okay, I have other things to do. So
great job for a grandchild for a summer project.
yeah. Yeah, to give you an inventory.
In my estimation, your grandchildren don't care about you or the fabric that much.
Not unless you pay them.
Oh yeah.
And then you got to find the payment.
I'm saying like a job, you would pay them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Is there anything else we want to go over today? I mean, anybody have a project that they're doing we want to do something with? All right.